whole foul. I don't know why you still pretending. What is the hour? Early digits and early bitches. Go. The audience not dumb. Shake your stories how you want. Ain't straight and not slow. Rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further. I promise. Ain't that something?
Well, good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday. We are now entering the last week of February. My goodness, how time flies. It is so wonderful to be with you all again today. And Brian and I, are just thankful and grateful that we're able to share information that you may not be able to get elsewhere. I need you to understand that we are giving you the words of truth. What is really happening in our society, in the world, in our communities, in the United States. Due to the research, the extensive research and reading and being able to decipher facts from fiction, we're able to give you the absolute truth. So today, I want to challenge you, and I'm challenging Brian, to tell us what's next. We need to know what's next. What are we to expect next? What is going on? You know, every day we wake up, it's something different. He hasn't even been in office 100 days yet. And time is moving so fast that we can't even catch up with it. Things are happening so fast that we're missing what happened just 15 minutes ago. So I'm going to challenge Brian. I'm going to challenge you to think about what's next. So without further ado, Brian, break it down to us. Make it plain.
Well, good evening, Facebook family. Good evening, YouTube family. We have been on the run today. We have not stopped. We are making our rounds. It has been a great day. We have had a busy weekend. Yesterday, we were in Georgia celebrating W.J. Anderson, a historian and a artist, and just someone in the African American community that deserves, I think, in my opinion, deserves some praise.
Yes.
Deserve to be studied and deserve to be honored. That's right. And we had the pleasure of attending a library unveiling of his art. A lot of his very, very powerful quotes as it relates to his art. And also that was Janice's uncle. Yes. So we enjoyed that. So we have been making our rounds. Today we were in Greenville at the historical First Missionary Baptist Church there this morning. And of course, we had our dear brother Billy Young in Selma, Alabama to celebrate his 50th birthday. We made our way back there. And then we had my dear brother, Brother Brombrae and his beautiful wife, Mrs. Brombrae, to celebrate their actual contribution to Selma and them actually leaving and moving on to be with family. So shout out to all of that. You know, yes. It's just been a wonderful weekend, but like I said, been a busy weekend. But what we want to continue to discuss, we talked a little bit on last week about some things that are happening as it relates to the Trump administration. We want to continue to discuss some of those things. How did we get here? That's always, Janice, the question that we have to ask ourselves. When did this start? You know, and I think, you know, you like to say, well, you know, we need to know what's going on now, but you really can't know what's going on now unless, like you said, unless you know what has happened and how did we get here. What was it that actually fueled the actual train that's now running called the Trump train? Okay.
The MAGA train.
The MAGA train that is on the roll, and anybody that gets in the way
will get run over.
Is getting run over. You're exactly right. So we need to discuss those things. But what I want to do, I want to just go back, not too far, but I want to talk about, look at the minimum wage. Okay? of the United States of America as it relates to the rise of inflation and the rise of interest rates. Okay? When did all of this begin to unfold? And that's some of the things that we need to try to compound together to understand why it is that we have been stuck in minimum wage for 16 years at the same rate when inflation has gone up, when the cost of goods has gone up, when interest rates have fluctuated with the market over the last 16 years. Now we see interest rates are up and there's no indication that it's coming down. So we are in a pickle, so to speak.
Wow.
And not only that, Janice, we see some of the executive orders. We started talking about this a little bit last week.
Yes. That
Trump continues to put in place. The majority of those executive orders that have an adverse effect on the population is hitting the African American community the hardest of all. Now, here's some weird, in my opinion, oxymoron type of things that happens within this administration. Now, I just said that a lot of the executive orders that he signs adversely affects the African American community.
Right.
But yet, over the course of this past week, we had some black Caucasians that were at the White House for Trump honoring Black History Month. And I'm looking at this, event on TV. And everybody's got their cameras up, and he stands up and says, African Americans, we could not, I would not be here if it wasn't for you.
Yep, that's what he said.
Now,
he got 40%, over 40% of the African American votes is what put him in the White House.
Now listen at this. Here's something that was very unique with this situation. Like I said, you had some black Caucasians that came out. Tiger Woods now is professing to be black when he's never, matter of fact, openly denied being black when he was once called black in his second golf tournament. Openly denied it, even though he had a black father, African American father. He openly denied, said that he did not want to be called a black golfer, and he preferred to be identified by his mother's ethnic persuasion. Okay? And his mother, if I'm not mistaken, was Japanese. Now all of a sudden, Trump honors a man that openly denied wanting to have any affiliation with Black America and is giving him a Medal of Freedom Award. Doesn't make it make sense. And then you have black folks there in the White House, the black Caucasians that showed up, all of them applauding. They don't care that jobs are being lost by the thousands, and even now by the hundreds of thousands, that African Americans are being adversely affected more than any other community by the thousands. They didn't care about none of that. Now, here's the interesting thing. I heard one person say, what you just said, when he announced that if it wasn't for the African American vote, he would not have been elected. One person said, don't forget about us. You know what his reply was? I will not forget about you. Guess what he's not going to forget?
What is that?
He's not going to forget how black prosecutors tried to put him in jail. He's not going to forget how black reporters and black journalists smeared him. And when he looks at that, he sees the whole black community. And now the stereotype in his mind is they're all like that. I got their vote, but I'm not going to give them really anything. Now, so while the black Caucasians were on the floor, those black MAGA Caucasians,
Leo Terrell,
all this, they had a host of them there.
Yes.
Okay, clapping and applauding him, honoring African American History Month. He's consistently have said any school that's teaching anything about slavery, funding will be cut. You will not be funded. Any school that promotes anything remotely that would indicate the teaching of African American history, whether it be on the elementary level, middle school level, high school level,
or
college level, will not be funded by the American government.
That's right.
But yet, the black Caucasians
put him in office.
Were there applauding, you understand?
Supporting.
Supporting this buffoonery and this foolishness when our communities are dying. They're not suffering anymore. They're dying. Okay? So we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to understand what is really going on. I said last week, this is not the first time downsizing of government has been in the plan. Reagan downsized. He did away with a lot of bureaucracies. Okay? Did away with a lot of employees on the federal level. So this is not the first time we've seen downsizing. We're going to see more downsizing. Now, the downsizing that's happening on the federal level, brothers and sisters, I need you all to understand this. It's going to matriculate down to the state level, from the state level to the county level, from the county level to the city level. You're going to see downsizing on every spectrum of government. Now, here's not only that, the policies that are being written that adversely affects African American community, they're going to be adopted by the majority of the states, especially the succession states. Okay? They're going to be adopted by the Alabama, by the Georgia, by the Tennessee, Mississippi, South Carolina. They're going to be adopted by these succession states. Florida. Listen, and those states are going to be the states that the African American community are hit hardest. SNAP program.
Yes.
That program.
HUD.
Okay. HUD program.
Even though we have a black director.
It doesn't matter. He's not a black director.
Yes, he's African American.
He has a black face. He's not black, period, because he doesn't care anything about the black community. He has made that clear that he is in office to enact the plan of the president. So that may mean Section 8 housing for all of our brothers that receive funding to be in a home from the government. That's Section 8.
Brothers and sisters.
That, brothers and sisters, that money is in danger of going away as it relates to Section 8 housing. Okay? The majority of Section 8 houses that are in predominantly African American communities are owned by African American renters. Okay?
Yes,
that are owned by
right.
African American renters. Prior to it being Section 8, most those renters in those homes, they were called slumlords. Okay? So those people that own the homes that most people rented that they could not, because they could not afford to be in an apartment or they could not afford to purchase a home, they ended up having to rent homes that were just above the standard of being livable. Those people that owned the homes were labeled slumlords. Well, the federal government saw how prosperous that business was, and they got involved from the Section 8 standpoint. Okay, so that may be going away. I said SNAP. Not only that, assistance for kindergarten and assistance pre-K. That is in danger. Head Start is going to go away. The DOE, Director of Department of Education now, Vince's McMahon wife, cares nothing about educating little black kids, cares nothing about a Head Start program. I challenge you all to read her resume. Okay, so what am I saying? There has to be alternative measures taken by city leaders, especially black city leaders. Black cities that are run by black mayors, I said this on another show, are the most depressed cities, are the most deprived cities as it relates to federal funding,
neglected,
okay, state funding. Okay, they're the most neglected cities, okay, and they have the poorest population.
Yes.
Understand that?
Yes,
now, there are some cities that are run by black mayors that are not majority African American. Those cities teeter a little bit above,
is that like the guy that's
population,
on the
population.
Maryland? The governor is the mayor.
Yeah, West, whatever his name is.
Westmore.
West, yeah. But you've got to look at part of Maryland is predominantly African American. So it depends on what part of Maryland you're talking about there. Okay, and you got to look at the divide between Maryland and DC. It's just, it's almost like just a street. You cross over zip codes, you're in the District of Columbia. So, but when I speak of mayors, I'm talking about the southern cities, the successionist states in the southern cities. Let me tell you something. Montgomery, Selma, Birmingham, okay? Those three cities, unfortunately, are not progressing as it relates to making sure that they have an alternative in place to help poor people. Okay? Those cities are not focusing on the poor, and they have black mayors. It is a disgrace. Bringing technology jobs to a city when you have an undereducated population that is poor and that's not working. Understand what I'm saying? And you never mention anything about bringing in work that can employ them, and you never mention anything about helping to train them for tech jobs. If you're bringing in manufacturing, whatever it may be, that is tech, that concerns tech, you are doing your community a disservice. Okay? What is going to happen? In order for those jobs to be filled, the city is going to have to recruit. Now, you have Alabama State University, you've got Tuskegee University, HBCUs, you got Alabama A&M in Huntsville.
Miles.
Okay, you got Miles in Birmingham. You've got HBCUs. Okay, but think about this. You got 100 jobs coming in tech, or you got 200 jobs coming in tech. All right, you have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors.
Okay.
Most of them don't start doing an intern program until they hit their junior year. Right. You've already filled those jobs through outside sources. And most tech companies bring their employees with them, or they recruit from within.
Or outside of this
okay,
area.
Those jobs will not go to HBCU students. Understand what I'm saying? Okay, then you bring in, let me go back to Montgomery. You bring in a liquor plant to Montgomery. Okay, that I think he said was going to produce 150 something like that jobs.
But it's a $400-some million.
But it's a 400, yeah. So, but you'll have the jobs, the construction jobs will be there.
Yeah.
Okay, but even with the construction jobs, if the contractor, okay, doesn't see the value of bringing in African Americans and outsource most of the construction work to people that are going to work for less wages and work long hours, guess who gets left out still?
African American.
Absolutely. Okay. You're employing the immigrant, okay, that you say you don't want here. But when it comes to their labor,
you want them.
And less wages, you're going to use them.
Yeah. Definitely.
And forget about the one that's already below the pyramid. Okay? So, this country was built off of a labor class. America cannot exist, unlike other countries, America cannot exist without having a low-wage labor class, subpar, substandard class, uneducated class. Okay? We talk about that. This country was built based on that. So America is always going to look at methods to actually lower cost, okay, as it relates to outsourcing labor, okay, outsourcing or outsourcing talent, okay. So they do not mind bringing in superior talent that is going to cause the economy
to rise.
Okay, to rise based on most jobs that are 6 figures or more, tech jobs, but they're also jobs that we see on Wall Street. We see a very prevalent in the stock market.
Yes.
Okay, so when you deal with jobs like that, you're talking about these large companies and corporations. Perfect example. The companies, the 3 investors that we saw Trump on like the 3rd night after he had been sworn in as president, with these 3 billionaire investors that talks about building the $500 billion AI facility in America.
Yes.
Okay, so think about that. That company is already trading on the stock market. That's already on Wall Street. So you could actually go and buy shares now. So you have those 6-figure jobs, but they're being subsidized through the stock market. So America is not losing anything. When you have what I call the lower echelon of that is manufacturing. Okay? Meaning that you have machinery and you have humanity working together. Mm-hmm. What is happening now with automation is that automation is replacing humanity. Okay? And those jobs that required some low-cost labor, they're putting machines there that can do it free. So even now the low-cost labor, if you got one machine that can do 10 people's job.
That's exactly right.
Don't cost you health insurance. Don't cost you a salary. You don't have to worry about paying them a pension. There's no 401k. Guess what happens?
There's no medical insurance.
Okay, there's nothing. So what happens to African Americans that are not trained to be in the workforce? Walmart can't employ all of the ghetto.
No, they cannot.
Walmart McDonald's can't employ all the poor people. You can't build enough Chick-fil-A's.
But now they're setting all this stuff up as self-checkout.
Okay.
And automatic machines
Yes,
taking
even
your orders.
Walmart now
Yes.
is using automation.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So, and that doesn't cost you anything. Right? So, black people have to be mindful. Selma, Alabama, Montgomery, like I said, Birmingham, when you ride through Jefferson County, Birmingham, Alabama, there are just as many people in the black depressed areas. There are more people in those black depressed areas that aren't working that are working. Okay? You ride through Montgomery, Alabama. Homelessness has literally taken over parts of the west side of Montgomery, my hometown. You understand? When we rode through Selma today, every part of Selma looks like Blight City. You understand? When you patch up roads and not really do real infrastructure projects, but you just patch up roads, when you're just putting down asphalt over bad asphalt, when you're not going in and really doing the work of breaking up the old asphalt. You understand what I'm saying? Relaying new pipes, things of that nature, but you're just paving over something. You are causing more of a problem. You're not fixing anything. And we've got, I will continue to say this, we have incompetent leaders in place that are only concerned about the status quo. They're only concerned about themselves. When you have a black mayor that talks about wanting to bring a rap convention into the city so that you can figure out what's going on, maybe with gangs or this or that, but you never talk about infusing the economy in the poor area. Something's wrong with you mentally. What good does it do to have a session with gangs when you're not talking about infusing the economy? When you're not talking about providing jobs to the least of these? When you're not talking about poor people that can't pay their rent, that can't pay their power bill? It makes no sense. You understand what I'm saying? So we are neglecting what we should be doing collectively as a black people. Okay? We should be rallying around the issue of economy. How do we infuse our economy to where it is going to be sustainable through not only the next 4 years, but probably the next 20 years? You understand what I'm saying? So we've got some work to do, and unfortunately, black mayors, our black so-called leaders, like I said, I have labeled them misleaders because they don't really want to do anything. They are afraid of Kay Ivey. They are afraid of the Ainsworths of the world. They are afraid of those Republican senators. They will not stand up. They will not. And my whole thing is, if you're afraid, let somebody do it that's not afraid.
That's it.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We have got to stop kowtowing
Yes.
to this political system. You're not going to see. One thing I've learned with the Alabama Senate and House, black folks, black representatives, I read all the bills. I sat there and read them to you that they passed here recently. We had one that was presented by Kirkpatrick of Montgomery, one that was presented by Brother Smitherman out of Birmingham. Then we had the sister Gwendolyn presented one. Listen, all of them were just what I call makeshift bills that have nothing literally really to do with empowering the black community. They're platitude bills. They're bills to say I got my name on a bill. That this is what I sponsored to go through. That isn't worth a dime. It doesn't do anything to speak to the dynamics of what we're dealing with in our community.
Right.
Okay? We are in a very stressed situation.
Yes, we are.
Right now.
And I don't think people get it. I don't think they really see it. I don't know. Some people are getting it. Some people get it. And Brian, we've been talking about this for quite some time. I don't know what they can do. I don't have the answer to the solution, but I know a voice that doesn't speak up is not going to get anywhere. You're going to have to make some noise.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to make some noise. You got to make it with everybody is represented by a council. Everywhere you live, every district, you have a city council. You have senators. You got to make some noise because nothing is going to get done if you keep your mouth closed. A closed mouth does not get fed.
Listen, let's go back to the Reagan administration. In the 1980s, Reagan started the deregulation of banks. Okay, Freddie Mae, Fannie Mae.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Understand this.
Yeah.
Okay, he started the deregulation. What did that deregulation do? It empowered middle-class working families and the wealthy to be able to go to the bank with a subpar credit score and get whatever they want by way of housing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, black people had to jump through hoops to get the same house or same loan, okay, that a white person was getting with a 400 and 500 credit score.
That's right.
Didn't really have to do anything. That started in the 1980s under Reagan. In 1999, in Bill Clinton's administration, the Federalized Standard Act under Bill Clinton, okay, just loosed everything. And up under Bill Clinton, on top of that, NAFTA was passed. So everything was outsourced to Mexico, to China, to Canada. Everything was started being outsourced. Not only that, with him just loosing the banks ran wild. Okay, so companies were outsourced. India, all technology jobs start being outsourced to India, to their programmers, their tech programmers. To customer service rep jobs started being outsourced.
To the Philippines.
Okay, all of those areas. That happened in the 80s, and then under Bill Clinton, Barack Obama comes into office, the bubble burst, and you have a recession as it relates to those deregulations, okay, having caused people the default of loans.
Yes.
From Freddie Mae and Fannie Mae caused that bubble to burst. Barack did not do any favors. He bailed the banks out instead of letting them fail. He bailed Wall Street out instead of bailing Main Street out, who was suffering the worst. Black people were suffering the worst. But he never touched that. And the escalation continued from him. So what we've seen is nobody talks about the effect that all of these things have had on the poor community. And they've been just as prevalent in the white poor community. Understand, it's not just black people alone. We are the ones that are most affected, but poor whites are affected just as bad as black people. July the 24th, 2009, the minimum wage was raised in this country from $6.55 an hour to $7.25 an hour.
That's right.
Understand this.
Yes.
Okay. There are 7 states that are are at the federal minimum wage or still below because they have no minimum wage law. Understand this now, it's very powerful. Guess what the 7 states are? Alabama leads those 7 states. Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, Wyoming. Those are the states in Louisiana. Those 7 states have no minimum wage law, and they're at the federal minimum wage standard or below. So what does that mean? If a company comes in and they want to pay you $10, $15 an hour, they can, but they don't have to, because the state of Alabama has no minimum wage. It is a right to work state, meaning that you can be fired for anything.
Yes.
And also, they do not have to employ you full time for you to be a full-time employee.
You know, Brian.
So if they give you 32 hours a week, you can be considered a full-time employee, but because you're not at 40 hours, you don't get any benefits of a full-time employee.
Exactly right. That's what I was saying about, looking at McDonald's paying $12 and $15 an hour. Most people, and I've talked to many people that work in these jobs, the restaurant jobs, fast food jobs, retail jobs, you don't get your 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making $12 or $15 an hour and all you getting is 20 hours a week or 24 or 30 hours a week, you're not getting $15 an hour.
No, if you divide it by 40, you get $7.25 an hour.
And that's how they get them.
This is what I'm saying. Okay? Black folks have to go back to the drawing board. Okay? At one time, we have to go back and look at what did we do in the early 1900s to develop and build our own towns, and how did we sustain those towns? It was through the black dollar. It was first through businesses being creating businesses ourselves. We have to get back to innovating and creating ourselves. And it was through the black dollar circulating through that black town almost 40%. Okay? So that means that black dollar touched every black business in that town at least one time before it left that black town. So we got to get back to our intellectual properties coming back home and not going to California or New York trying to chase the pie in the sky and to party, you understand, and to be in the hip-hop arena and to be around this venue, that venue. We've got to get away from the mindset that I'm looking for something bigger and better than where I'm at, instead of going back and making your home
yes, I say that all the time.
Bigger and better.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we have to retain intellectual property. Makes no sense to encourage our kids to go to college and then don't encourage them to come back home and to start businesses and to build up the area that they live in. But because we do not teach the history, something else we got to do. Churches, and I've said this, need to start buying up property. Okay? I had this in my plan. I gave Brother Young a plan for First Baptist. In the 5-year plan, buy up all of those condemned houses that are in Selma. Turn them into resource centers. So we have to get creative. Start a school within the church, okay, that is not governed by the state. Understand what I'm saying? Certain laws you have to be compliant with, but the state cannot dictate what you can teach and what you can't teach.
I got it. Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Churches that won't comply, all of the doors need to be closed. Churches need to have resource centers that can direct our people, not only to funding, not just once or twice a year, you understand what I'm saying? Yes. But need to have resource centers that will employ our people. You understand? We have to encourage our farmers not to wait on the white folks to open their farmers market, but let's have a farmers market 2-3 times a week, all of our black farmers, and we hit every city, African American city in the state of Alabama, at least twice or 3 times a week. You galvanize black business owners. And instead of folk going to Pike Road in East Montgomery to a mall, galvanize black business owners and investors and say, this is what we want to build in our community. And then employ people, train them, put training programs in place, train them on how to work in those places that you invest and build.
That's exactly right.
You understand? Mm-hmm. So and I've said this, our black politicians are so, and I hate to call out names, but y'all used to it because Trump been calling us names for 4 years now. This is another 4 years. Okay, he's been calling black folks names the whole time he's been in there, and we're too ignorant to realize it. But anyway, we're brain dead. Our black politicians are brain dead because they are so stuck into the system that they cannot think outside the box. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? They are afraid that, well, I can't get any funding for my city. If you can't get any funding, go out and knock on your people's doors. Don't tell me that black people got money to go to McDonald's 5 and 7 days a week, but cannot invest in their own community if they have a viable plan by somebody that's got a vision for the city. Don't tell me that we cannot start our own black banks again. Do you know what happened when the Freedmen's Banks initially was started? The FDIC, that was before FDIC was in place. But do you know that the Washington bureaucrats, white Washington bureaucrats, took over 80%, do you know why? Why? Of the federal Freedmen's Bank money that slaves were put in the money. Because slaves were out saving the white population over 80%. That slaves had more money in there was more money in the Freedmen's Bank than the white banks. So they took the money from the Freedmen's Bank. I'll have to do a whole show on that. Okay? So it shows you that black people can save and they will put away when there is a cause. But if you don't have leadership to guide them and to lead them, and then when Frederick Douglass finally got involved in taking over the last years, they had stolen so much money from the slaves that there's no way it could survive. Okay? So what I'm saying is, black people, we have to wake up and smell the coffee. Okay? Things are not going to get better up under this administration. Jobs are going to continue to be cut. Black people are going to continue to be the most affected because most of the programs right now that are being cut directly affect black people more than any other group and poor white people.
You know, Brian, this is my whole thing. We were already in a recession under the Democratic Party. Am I right? We were headed for a recession. Where did all that money go?
Well, you didn't have anybody.
Well, we didn't. Of course we didn't.
No, I'm saying that the government didn't have any money. The government's $37 trillion supposedly in debt.
Well, then why are some senators and congressmen, why are they millionaires?
Well, senators and congressmen work for the corporations. So, corporations continue to fund the pockets of those that are in office. That's how simple that is. Even the Democrats. The Democrats are in the back pocket of corporations. Corporations are in their back pocket, rather, the other way around.
Like lobbyists.
Okay? That's what they are. They're lobbyist groups. That's just like I said. See, when you look at Hakeem Jeffries, I said this on last week. Hakeem Jeffries, his actual campaign was funded by AIPAC, which is the Jewish lobbyist group. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why he never came out in opposition to the Gaza war. Because his biggest funders are Zionist Jews. Now, so we have to be honest. And listen, Hakeem Jeffries, as smart as he is, as brilliant as he is, I don't take anything away from him, his intellectual accomplishments, educational accomplishments. But he's a coward. He won't stand on the floor and say what needs to be said. He has no message to the Democratic Party on what they need to do next. Only thing he is saying is, let's just keep getting our butt whipped.
Well, guess what? You don't cut off the hand that feeds you.
No, that's the wrong mentality.
But that's what he's saying. In other words, that's what he's doing.
Well, maybe he's looking at it that way. But what I'm pointing out is that every black up there, even the most boisterous blacks, no, they're not there for the people. They're there for their own interests, but they're not. So you have to think about what you're seeing in Washington. You're seeing propaganda fed to black people. You're not seeing the truth fed to black people. Okay, let's look at the reparations situation. Okay, Sheila Jackson Lee, H.R. 40. Okay, she, God bless Sheila Jackson Lee. But H.R. 40 is just a study. Now they stood up, boo-hooing and crying that the sister that had taken over the H.R. 40 reparations bill, trying to enact a study. What do you need to study? Well, there's nothing to study about slavery as it relates to reparations anymore. It is this simple. They used us for over 339 years, and we were used with no wages over 339 years. Then you had Jim Crow. Then you had, after Jim Crow, the penal system. And so what is there to study now? Nothing at all. And not only that, why didn't you do something when Biden was in office? Now you're trying to do it to rebuttal everything Trump is doing. That just goes to show you how brain dead the black Democrats are. That is foolishness. You didn't try to do it when you had a Democratic president and you had a slight margin in the House. But now you wait till you get a Republican or MAGA president, you got a MAGA House, and you got a MAGA Senate, and you're going to try to reintroduce in H.R. 40 to study reparations? That's ignorant to me. And that just goes to show you that the Democrats are not serious about black problems. The only thing they are serious about is looking like buffoons up there crying and marching and singing civil rights songs. Dr. King is rolling over in his grave to see how inept our black leaders have become. Same way in Alabama here. When I read about these pseudo platitude bills that black people, already you don't have any black senators that will stand up, that will get in front of a news camera, that will openly rebuttal Kay Ivey. They bow down, they kowtow, they do everything they can just so their little pie in the sky is not jeopardized. They're cowards. And we as black people have to start demanding something. The ghetto person, all the way to the black in the mansion, the house Negro. There has to be a collective conscience that comes together and says, no longer are we are going to settle for breadcrumbs and handouts. We want something tangible and real in our community. And if we can't get it, then we create it ourselves. That is how simple that is. I don't want to hear anybody come to me about another nonprofit. I said that last week. It is the most, at this particular point in history, ignorant thing that we can do is to keep begging and giving out little trinkets that we think are going to help our community, and it's nothing real or tangible. And after you give out your little trinkets, you do your little thing, you're gone and nobody sees you until your next little event. That has to stop. You understand what I'm saying? So forgive me if it sounds like I'm yelling, but this is something I'm passionate about, because Negroes act like we have lost our minds. We're almost senseless. We're not in the fight anymore. Literally, we have almost surrendered. We're not really in the fight. And we have got to stop that.
Well, Brian, it's only going to get worse.
Yes, it is getting worse. We're on a downward. I don't know how much farther down
we can go.
I
don't either.
Okay? We're at the lowest of the low now. I've said this, that this whole concept of government, in this whole concept of America, did not include the Negro. We have to come to grips with that. And if we are going to survive what is happening now and what's going to continue to happen, this is the start of the extinction of the American Negro. Now, I said on many, many occasions that the system was set up to eradicate the Negro. You understand? See, even if we go back to the great emancipator, Lincoln himself, he was trying to move these Negroes off the American continent. Period. That's why Liberia came into existence. You understand? So the whole concept is America does not want to face its greatest sin, and that is retribution for the descendants of the slave. It has nothing to do with them talking about that's in the past. That's an excuse. You know how it's an excuse? Because you pay every other victim.
That's exactly right.
Every other victim that has experienced atrocities, even ones that possibly may have been set up and staged by the United States, such as 9/11. You pay the victims that you have mistreated. The slave descendants are the only ones that you want to forget about the past. It's foolishness. And our leaders have bought into that instead of standing up and saying, hold up. We're bringing in all these tech jobs. We got all of these companies. We're giving them tax breaks out the yin-yang to bring their company here. And you may create 500 construction jobs in the process for 2 or 3 years while they're building the manufacturer. But then, when they employ their people, they're bringing in 50 of the 100 people that they're going to employ. And a lot of times, you're even displacing our people if they're in an area where the company may want to set up subsidiary companies for the manufacturer. You'll displace whole communities like Maxwell Air Force Base did with this frivolous water park that Montgomery put up, Whitewater Park, that it was a bust, and I said on the show, financially it wasn't smart. It makes no sense. You understand? Or we get on TV and we go in front of cameras like the mayor of Selma and everybody else did, you understand? And talk about all this money and all of this construction we're going to be doing. And then when you ride through Selma, and we're talking about it starting immediately, you ride through Selma, you see patch jobs all over the city. You ride through Selma, you don't see any business flourishing. You see businesses actually still leaving. You see a mall that's sitting there. You see a former Winn-Dixie. You see all of these things. And yet you're not advocating openly and pointing these things out. You'd rather sit there in the Senate and follow Robert's rules of order and don't raise any hell while your people die. I don't understand politicians. I guess that's why I'm not one. But when you're really serious about what is going on in the black community, okay, if you're in a position to raise your voice and to galvanize black people, that is what you ought to be doing. I don't care if you have to put a podium in front of the state capitol. Put a podium in front of the state capitol. Attract some attention. You understand what I'm saying? That is what taxpayers, that the people that you represent that don't have a voice, that is what they want to see you do. You understand what I'm saying? And we have to become more vigilant about making sure that we advocate that true advocacy work is done. And we're not doing that. We're sitting back and accepting whatever they allow us to have and whatever they give us. Let's put together business plans and start businesses all over the city. Let's not wait on somebody. You understand what I'm saying? If you've got buildings that are falling in, go ahead, do whatever you need to do to condemn it. If the owner of the building is not willing to come in and make improvements, then confiscate the building. And then let's put some things in place to employ our own people. Okay? I don't understand, like I said, I'm not in the inside. But if your city has a $5 million or $20 million surplus, and you got one side of the city falling down, take $10 million and let's begin to innovate, create. Let's bring in some investors and say, we got $10 million we're going to work with. We got a $20 million surplus. We got $10 million we're going to invest in businesses coming. We want to make the west side of Montgomery just as frugal and just as fervent as the east side. We want to make Selma, Alabama just as fervent and prosperous as Prattville, Alabama.
Exactly.
Okay, how do we get our intellectual property to buy into what we're saying and to come back home? How do we get blacks that are prospering to want to move back? How do we deal with the crime problem in our little YNs, our little thugs? You understand what I'm saying? And how do we deal with them above and beyond just putting more police in place and now having the state troopers to come in place and to write more tickets? Or if you write more tickets, you're not really stopping crime. What you're doing is creating more debt for somebody that can't pay it back to start with. So we have got to get creative with what is going on and what is happening in our community. Okay? And Trump hasn't done anything and is not doing anything, I will continue to say this, that hasn't been on the agenda for over the last two presidencies. You understand? He is just enacting a plan that has been just rolling downhill, and he has enough now power
that he can execute
with those that are MAGA. Mm-hmm. You understand? Loyalists and MAGA nationalists. So you understand that the white nationalist party is not afraid to let you know they are white nationalists. There's nothing. Steve Bannon is not afraid. Trump has not been afraid. And you even got some black white nationalists. Tim Scott is a black white nationalist. Clarence Thomas is a black white nationalist. They're not afraid to. Leo Terrell is a black white nationalist. They're not afraid to let you know that they're there. Why are black folks afraid to say, I'm a black nationalist? I'm for black people first, love all of humanity, but I want to solve the problems of my people first.
Exactly, Brian.
I don't understand. And then we get so ashamed, because we think people will call us racist. No, I got plenty of white friends. I don't have enemies. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't have the power to be racist.
That's exactly right.
And I quote that from Dr. Claude Anderson. You have nothing. How can you be racist? You've never owned anything. Not in this country. 1% ownership, you've never really owned anything. And then we got to stop idolizing black entertainers. Got to stop idolizing black athletes. Black athletes and black entertainers are enigmas. They are not for black people. They work for the entertainment industry that is run by Europeans. Okay? So they're Europeans. You understand what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is, if we don't really become conscious of what is happening, it doesn't matter how good your job is, and it doesn't matter that you may make 6 figures as a black person. Your job is in jeopardy. And like I said, you're going to see cuts now that are happening at the federal level. They're going to trickle down to the state, county, city level.
Because everything that happens at the top eventually comes to trickle down. From a standpoint
of government, yes. Mm-hmm. And so the state of Alabama is going to be the first. It is a successionist state still. We have to understand that. We have a successionist governor. And even though she cannot run again because of term limits, now when you look at the Republican ticket, you have white nationalists all the way down the board. And the Democratic do-nothing party has nobody but one person I saw on there that is a potential, and that is Doug Jones. There's nobody to represent our needs. It's not interest anymore. Okay, let's stop using that word, because that word diminishes the severity of our condition. So it's not about somebody representing our interest. Somebody needs to represent our need. Stop diminishing the condition of poor people, black people. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I'm not concerned. When I think about interest, I think about finances. Let's get somebody that's concerned about our need. And if you're truly for black people, start standing up and start developing a plan. The people perish because of a lack of a vision. Where there is no vision, the people will perish. And that is what you're seeing. Leaders, black leaders don't have vision anymore. Al Sharpton is not a leader. Boycotting Target and going to Walmart is not doing anything. You hear what I'm saying? We put our hope in leadership, like I said, that's outdated, antiquated, and they don't serve the needs of black people anymore. Al Sharpton is a multimillionaire, and he became that way off of prostituting the people. We have to start talking about these things, especially down south, because we love our pseudo leaders. And it's deplorable, in my opinion. Okay? So we've gone a little bit over time, but as you can tell, I'm passionate about it.
Well, I think
something has to be done.
Something's going to be done, or like you said, we can't continue on this trajectory.
Yes.
We cannot, because you will have an annihilation of a whole section of people, a whole segment of people. It just can't. We can't.
Well, you already have a whole segment of people already left out. Okay, poor people are not in the equation. That's why you don't hear any political representatives talking about poor. They talk about the middle class and the working middle class.
Yes.
They do not talk about the poor working and the poor jobless. They don't talk about that. Okay? Today in my message, I recounted the unemployment rate.
Yes.
Black people unemployment rate has been the highest since 2015. That's 10 years that we are leading every other ethnic group in unemployment. And you telling me that black representatives care something about us? No. They care about the Democratic agenda. And the Democratic agenda still is trickle-down economics to the little Negroes that are at the bottom.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
you
is.
understand?
Yes,
It is not an agenda to uplift those. It is unfortunate. And the Democratic message is dead. The Republican message has always been dead to us. But the Democratic message now is dead. It is not truly not the answer for our condition. Now's the time to form a third party. Now's the time in the state of Alabama to have a voice, to form a third party, and to run a candidate for governor that's not a Democrat or Republican, but somebody that will stand up and call a spade a spade. You understand what I'm saying? And somebody that will call out the lies and that will call out some of the trickery that's being done right here in the state of Alabama that is not trying to uplift poor people, period. Okay? So we have to get involved. Now, I'll say this. I was approached by somebody as relates to the governorship. I got a phone call last week. I was telling you about it. Okay? I'm in support of building, helping to assist, whatever we need to do, the legalities of it, getting lawyers involved to where we can start a third party and we can get a candidate that will not only verbalize our needs and poor people's needs, but that will do something about it. You understand? So we've got to do something other than clap our hands and put up memorial signs commemorating somebody. All of that's good. I don't knock that. But that doesn't put jobs in our community, and it doesn't put food on the table. You understand? So you can raise $20,000 to put a plaque up. You can raise $20,000 to start a business to employ people that don't have jobs. We have got to stop thinking like those that oppressed us and start thinking about how do we take care of ourselves collectively. Now, we can go through the Constitution and break it down, and I can show you that you were never included in the mix of this country, and you never will be. And I've said this, unless they are going to call a session to have a new constitutional committee formed to rewrite the whole Constitution, you're never going to be able to get the benefits of those that come in as immigrants and those that are European. We just have to accept that. So that means you have to do something for yourself. Brother Marcus Garvey put his own constitution in place.
Yes, he did.
For the UNIA and over 4 million black people. We have to do the same thing. Negroes playing politicians, not going to work anymore. It's just not. Okay? So, I'm done. Okay?
He's done.
We're going to end.
We're going to. You guys, I have so much I can say. I'm like, I am where you guys are. I am just amazed. And I'm worried. I would be lying if I said I was not worried.
No, we don't need to worry.
I'm worried. I'm concerned. Very much so concerned.
No, we need to do something. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I'm tired of being worried. No, I'm not going to stress over that. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to do. And that's what black people, we need to get that attitude. We need to stop being reactive and start being proactive. Okay? That's all we are, just reactive creatures. We're so emotional, we just react. No, let's start being proactive. Let's start taking the initiative first.
I had a lady to tell me today at an event, she says, I don't understand why more people don't listen to your show, you and Brian's show, because Brian has been telling us this for now going on. She said, I know, at least 5 years. I've been listening. People don't, it's like we don't want to hear the truth, or we're afraid of the truth, or you just think that it's not going to happen to you. Well, I have a message. It is already happening to you. And you think you're exempt. You're not exempt. If you're African American, you're not exempt. And they're showing that you know if it's happening on the federal level, you may as well get ready because it's going to hit the state and the local level.
Coming to this. There's no way that
there's no way it won't. It's going to affect us all. So if you're saying you're not going to touch if you're on Social Security, what do you mean he's not going to touch it? They're already in there looking at it. So get it together. Either you're going to be about it or you're just going to demolish on the way with the rest of them. So let's take another stand. Share this message. Share this word. Share this video. Let's be about it. Let's take care of business.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good night. Have a great week.